Good evening. I'm Ray, and this is TinyTableGames, or good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you are. But for me right now, filming this, it's good evening, and it sounds more mysterious. Today, I'm filming an episode continuing on a off and on campaign I'll be continuing, because you know I do love campaign games. Excuse me. With Mythos Tales, which, as you may recall, is basically Sherlock Holmes consulting detective, except set in Arkham, and you're just expendable Cthulhu Mythos investigators. It just appeals to me. I think it's fun. It was the last time, as you may recall, we discovered who the woman who was left nearly catatonic when her fiance tried to sacrifice her to tree people in the woods. And the next episode is called Flesh and Blood, Investigation 2, on August 8th, 1929. The first investigation was on June 30th, 1929. And so for the next one, you have to use the last paper in case there's any extra clues in there, and the new paper, which I always think is interesting. What is not interesting necessarily is just listening to me read. So I was considering panning the paper so you can look over everything that's in today's paper while I read and just voice it over, which seems like a good way of doing it. That way you're not just stuck listening to me for no reason at all. All right, that said, thank you very much for liking and subscribing. Can help the little channel grow, and let's get to it. Another episode of the Cthulhu Mythos and being an investigator. Thank you for watching. And here's the interesting artwork. And Blood, Investigation 2, Arkham, Massachusetts, August 8th, 1929. On a wet August morning, you step into the office of Professor Henry Armitage in Miskatonic University's renowned Orne Library. You're surprised to find no one waiting for you. It was only this morning that you received his call, and you've never known him to be late or miss an appointment. You spend a few minutes wandering Dr. Armitage's violets. That makes no sense. You spend a few minutes watering Dr. Armitage's violets. Typo. Forgive my late arrival, Armitage's voice rings out from the hallway. Please don't think I take your assistance for granted. It's been an eventful morning. His arrival does not assuage your anxiety. Late and apologetic? Something is amiss. He hands you today's copy of the Arkham Advertiser. You catch the headline. Night Watchman found dead at Miskatonic. The old man wipes the dirt and leaves from his shoes. 3 years ago, there was an attempt to steal a very dangerous book from the restricted section of the library. The theft was prevented, but it was clear that more security was required. You think whoever killed this watchman stole the book? You ask. Before we get to that, there are several details about the murder and the paper leaves out. Unpleasant details. Dr. Armitage closes his office door. Here we go. The corpse was left in a rather grisly state. The attacker removed the victim's skin and his blood. Your anxiety grows into icy dread. That's insane. It makes perfect sense to someone last night. Armitage shakes his head. This morning I informed a mother and father that someone left their son a mutilated corpse, and he had not worked here long. You know, I have witnessed so many unspeakably horrific things, but that... Armitage struggles for the words. You reach over and place a comforting hand on Dr. Armitage's shoulder. He takes a moment to compose himself. There's something else you need to see. Make sure your shoes are clean, and follow me. You wipe the mud from your shoes, which you probably should have done before you went into his office, and accompany the old man down the hall to the restricted section of the library. As you do, you see a distinct trail of dried earth running along the floor. Was this from the killer? Indeed. Armitage stops at a door bearing the sign that reads, Restricted, no entry. The trail of mud goes no further. When I arrived this morning, the watchman's keys were in the lock and this door was open. The watchman's keys, however, will only open the outer door to the restricted area. Dr. Armitage unlocks the outer door and switches on the light to illuminate the overstuffed shelves in a windowless room. A second door within the restricted section provides further protection for the Necronomicon. Armitage glances in its direction, and oddly, the Necronomicon is in a foul mood today. One would think it had been excited. The trail of mud does not cross the threshold of the room. Yes, one would think, you mutter. You are not sure if Armitage is serious when he speaks of the Necronomicon's moods, but you've grown accustomed to his odd manner of expression. You glance quizzically around the room. He unlocked the door but didn't come in? It's very telling. Armitage points to the inside of the door jamb, where there are a series of occult protection symbols etched into the wood. As I said, more security was required. The fact that the intruder could not pass the door with these protection symbols suggests that it was something other than human. Whatever it was, I believe it will grow more desperate as a result of this failure. Coffee break. As the two of you walk to the library exit, he says, "We must find out what this creature is, and what its motivations and intentions are, and most importantly, how to stop it." Inspector Garrison and his men have collected the evidence from the crime scene and turned it over to Dr. Corbett. He may have uncovered something, and as much as I hate to admit it, there is someone else who might have knowledge of this creature. I won't mention the scoundrel's name, the occult expert. As you may recall, we had to visit him last time. You have proven yourself to be quite resourceful. You will figure it out. But be careful. We shall work independently. Time is not on our side. Armitage holds the front door open for you, letting a hard wind into the library. And our time tracker will be set to evening on day 5, which if you didn't watch the last episode, which you probably should because it was good too, that's how long you have to solve the problem. We know that the evidence was collected and turned over to the crime scene investigator, Dr. Corbett. So that should probably be our very first visit. Dr. Corbett is hunched over several photographs with his back to the door, and yet he uncannily knows that it's you entering his lab. What's fascinating about this case is the evidence we don't have, and I don't just mean the skin and blood. Corbett turns around to look at you. If I were going to steal someone's skin, I'd bring a car if I had one. Wouldn't you? I mean, where did it go? That's the real mystery here. Skin is messy. We had rain and we have mud. It's the perfect setup to see tire tracks, but there's nothing. He points to a series of photographs outside the library. So he walked, he flew, you say. I don't know, but I know he didn't drive. Now, I'm not the one to tell you how to do your job, but it occurs to me that it's likely that your killer doesn't have a car. And if that's true, I bet he's been in a taxi in the last few days. Unless he flew. Probably the next person to hit is the occult expert guy. So that'll be our afternoon on day 1, is visiting L4 and Pasquale. I'm not sure if it's worth visiting the police since they said they just gave the evidence to him and he's just got dirt, so cool. So all we know is it was dirty when he walked outside. All right, on to Pasquale. For as many times as you've seen the interior of Fenton's home, it never fails to disturb and surprise you. Each cabinet and shelf overflows with curios from long-forgotten civilizations. Most of these trinkets are obviously counterfeit, but a few seem unnervingly genuine. Pasquale points to an old soft chair that exhales dust as you sit. Did Armitage send you? Has he finally admitted that old Fenton might just know how to do a thing or two? Behold, all things are possible. Pasquale laughs sarcastically. I've forgotten more about the unseen world than that little mouse will ever know. I'm surprised you have so long avoided becoming my student. Now tell me, how may I help you? Given his fascination with the grotesque, you don't spare any of the details of the Watchman's death. After you finish the story, the old occultist thinks silently. Tricky, he eventually concludes. There's a cult in the Orient that ritually skins their victims. If they are making an incursion into the Western world, well, I dread to consider what that could mean. Some Turkish immigrants get together for chess at the desolate highway cafe. It might be worth asking them about the Brotherhood of the Skin. You finish taking notes and are about to leave when Pasquale stops you. However, that doesn't take into account the loss of blood, nor the susceptibility to his magical wardings. Those elements suggest a vampire. You stare at Pasquale, wondering if he's teasing you. A vampire, like in the movies? Exactly. It drinks blood and it fears religious symbols, as well as basic protections like garlic and silver. By the way, did you see that vampire film? The projectionist there is probably well informed on the subject. Pasquale strokes his chin. I can't imagine why a vampire would remove the victim's skin. I suppose that's all I can tell you. Good luck. Wow, that was almost useless, and I feel like we wasted our time. All right, so we've gone to the criminologist, we've gone to the spiritualist, we walked through the crime scene at the intro. This is a tough one. To the newspaper, let's see if we pick anything up. Arkham Cab Company, D34. So the end of our first day, Arkham Cab Company. Arlo shouts to you from across the garage. What's the rumpus, Amos? His cheeriness seems immune to the drab weather and macabre headlines of the day. You cross the distance to meet him. Your cabbies have any strange fares lately? Every single day, man. Actually, my boys have been pretty happy lately. A lot of well-to-do types, coming and going. Sebastian Lyman and his crowd, if you know what I mean. The Silver Twilight? What are they up to? I couldn't tell you that, but I know they tip well. Something's got them in a whirl. Hey, if you aren't busy, why don't you help old Arlo shine his tires? Does that mean we need to swing by that club again? I don't know about that. Order of the Silver Twilight Lodge, L18. All right, we'll give it a try. Tuesday morning, L18. Silver Twilight Club, or the Order of the Silver Twilight. When in doubt, go to the local cultists, right? Let's see. Stepping into Sebastian Lyman's living room, you seem to have interrupted a conversation between him and two sinister-looking men seated across from him. He waves for you to join him by the fireplace. I don't have much time to speak to you, I'm afraid, but I have an answer to your question. He points to the portrait of a dour-faced old man that hangs above my mantel. You're wondering about the identity of this man. You've never seen that portrait, and you haven't given it any thought, but you play along. I was. He was a Scotsman from Clan MacNaught. Of course, Naught has turned to Knight these days. Lyman smiles inscrutably. Ah, you say. He obviously can't talk directly. I'm afraid I must return to my current business. You should find me later, he winks. We can speak again back at French Hill. And remember to bring that 64 Chateau Lafite Rothschild you've been promising me. Got it? The 64. You nod, but you're not sure what his meaning. Lyman must want to meet with you in a more private place. So I'm guessing it's 64 French Hill? F64. One thing about this game is you just never know if something's going to be there or not. So let's check it out. F64. Good news, there's words. Come in quickly, Lyman implores you. Once you're inside, he closes the door and locks it. I'm glad you took my meaning. Miss is currently out of town, and I needed a way to speak to you without being observed. Lyman takes a cautious glance around the curtain window. Right now, every lodge member is under extreme scrutiny. Satisfied that you aren't being observed, he sits down. First of all, the Orn wasn't the only library this intruder tried to break into last night. Before going to Miskatonic, this would-be thief visited the lodge's private library and was similarly turned back by our protections. Only members of the Order know the location of this library. Oh, that's interesting. So somehow this intruder found the library, but wasn't able to break in. You have a traitor in your ranks? He asks. Or you ask. Lyman smiles grimly. Our oaths of loyalty are very, shall we say, compelling. I cannot imagine any of our living members betraying the secret. Key word there. Could someone who's supposedly dead betray you? Someone dead did betray us, he responds. He wasn't dead at the time, however. In 1793, Jedediah Cahill's son snuck into that big empty house across from the old wooded graveyard. People call it the unnameable. At any rate, it left the boy catatonic. The father was desperate to save his son. He joined our order, hoping to find a way to undo the damage. He stole an ancient, powerful book from a library, thinking he could use it to preserve his son's life. I suppose it didn't work. You recall Armitage's words about telling the Watchman's parents about their son's death. Worse. When the abomination was discovered, Cahill was expelled from the order, and the book was moved to a different city. In the wake of Jedediah's mistake, 8 people were found dead, flayed and bloodless. Blamed for these murders, he was burned at the stake. You can see Lyman getting nervous, but you have more questions before you leave. What's in this book that's so dangerous? Lyman puts his fingers to his mouth, indicating a secret he can't tell. I can say it as an earlier version of a text Armitage has in his library. It makes sense that this thing would go to where our copy used to be first. It's a somewhat addictive text. Once a person of a particular obsessive temperament has been exposed to the book, he'll keep trying to regain it. Also, if he can't get to the original, he'll make do with what he can. He may try to copy the text on the same medium as the original, human skin. But he will never let it go. What happened to the son? Lyman shrugs. Noah? At the time, that wasn't the order's concern. Now I'm hoping you can tell me. I need to leave now. I'll exit out the back door, wait 10 minutes, and then leave the way you came in. Take requirement cards 1 and 2. Across from the graveyard, huh? That might be worth checking out too, just out of curiosity. Or that might be incredibly stupid. Okay, let's check out the Unnameable. I found it in the opposite the graveyard. So that was pretty well laid out as far as where that goes. M3. The large house, known as the Unnameable, has always filled those who see it with a sense of seething dread. The window panes have all been shattered and never replaced. Uninhabited for more than 200 years. The property officially belongs to the city of Arkham, but then little is done in the way of caretaking. The front door is locked, and you know that Armitage would not want you to get caught trespassing. That's disappointing. I'm thinking try the hospital. And the reason why I'm thinking that is because, let's see, Dr. Vincent Sutton is the trauma surgeon and chief pathologist at St. Mary's Teaching Hospital. If any of your investigation involve injuries or victims, he's the man to visit. So we're going to try that. Maybe he's got some further insight. Dr. Vincent Sutton meets you in the hospital's waiting room and ushers you into his office. I may have had a patient related to your investigation. Yesterday, I treated a woman named Ellie Hathaway who suffered an animal attack. The people who found her must have scared off whatever it was that clawed her so badly. She'd lost a lot of blood, although there was very little blood on her skin or clothes. Is she conscious, you inquire? He frowns. She didn't pull through. I don't know anything more about her, but her body was sent to the Whitechapel mortuary. Okay, well, now we know where we're going next. It's shameful, says Arthur Goodman. It's unforgivable desecration. Goodman's expression remains one of stoic concern, carved on his face after years of owning and operating the mortuary. The two of you sit across from each other in the building's waiting room. I'm sorry, you respond. I don't think I understand. The stolen body, that's why you're here, isn't it? You sigh, flipping to a new page of your notebook and ready your pencil. Tell me about the stolen body. Goodman speaks briskly but quietly with a warm, sonorous voice. It was the young girl who Dr. Sutton stood over, Ellie Hathaway. I had just spent the evening preparing the body for services at Sacred Heart. I was in my office working on the ledgers when I heard the front door open. I am very meticulous about keeping the door bolted, but when I got there, the door was open and her body was gone. You reassure Goodman that you'll find out what's going on. Once you exit the building, you search for footprints in the mud. You only find one set of prints leading away from the building. So we are going to do the freebie one, which is going back to talk to Professor Armitage for our afternoon on day 3. Before you even ask a question, Amelia Sargent whispers, Professor Armitage told me to keep track of anyone who wanted to get into the restricted collection today. One student came in, Patty McCullough. That's the same Patty McCullough who just got pulled out of her dormitory and dropped off at the sanitarium. Do you think she's the one? She's just a kid. How could she do something so horrible? We've already been in the library, talked to Dr. Armitage's library secretary person. We've talked to the chief surgeon. So now we're going to talk to the historian, Professor Leonora Robinson. Day 3 evening. So we only have 6 clues left we can look up. We are not doing great. Let's see, C17. Clearly frustrated, Professor Robbins pounds her fist flat on one of the many file folders on her desk. She grimaces when she sees you. I am so sorry. Please tell the professor I am so sorry. Sorry about what? You shut her office door behind you. The whole thing with the, she shudders, the flesh and the blood. It has happened before, but I can't recall when. There's over 200 years of recorded history in Arkham. She flips through papers. I need something to jog my memory, something other that can narrow it down just a bit. If you have requirement card 1, and we do. Proceed to supplemental encounter on page 30. You share what you've learned with the professor. Of course, 1793, the Cahills. She throws open a filing cabinet and flips through her immense collection of notes. According to legend, Jedediah Cahill's son saw strange faces in the upstairs window of a large house across from the old wooded graveyard. You mean the Unnameable? So called because of a story written by Randolph Carter, she explains. It's owned by the city now. Randolph Carter was in one of the stories. One day the son snuck in to investigate. Carter's story described some sort of nonsense about an incomprehensible horror inside, if you like that sort of thing. However, it's a historical fact that Jedediah found his son screaming uncontrollably. Eventually, the poor boy lapsed into a catatonic state. The whole thing left Jedediah devastated. He was a very religious man, a founding member of the First Baptist Church. Ding ding. He abandoned his faith and began trying all kinds of screwball things to help his son recover. After the boy died, he buried him on the unvisited isle. Not only did Jedediah return to religion, he became a zealot, way off the deep end. It's written that he was reproducing sacred text onto human skin. Wait, she runs her fingers across the nose. The elder Cahill was accused of murdering 8 people. He took both the skin and the blood of his victims. Just before they burned him at the stake, he was recorded as saying, "My soul is at peace. I have atoned, and I know that God will understand what I have done. My flesh, my blood. This thing now lies where it cannot return." Huh. The professor hands you her notes. If you haven't been already, you may want to check with Dorothy Davis over at the Historical Society. Jedediah's wife was pregnant when her husband was burned for his crimes. And the Historical Society. Started day 4. Historical Society. Where is that? I don't know. Let's see. You bump into Dorothy as she's exiting the building and inadvertently knock files to the ground. "That was my fault," she says, picking up the items. "I've got so much to do, I'm not even watching where I'm going." You help her pick it up. "What's the rush?" "I need to run by the First Baptist Church." I guess I should have gone there. "Have you ever been? They have some amazing records, some of the oldest in the city. Then I'm off to see the new items at the Pickering House. History is alive and well in Arkham. Perhaps we can talk another time." Okay, so First Baptist Church is where I should have gone. This weathered old First Baptist Church doesn't keep the chill out. The pastor walks toward you wearing his coat. He says, "Is there something I can help you with?" If you have requirement card 2, aha! Proceed to supplemental encounter on page 30. The pastor seems to recognize the name Cahill. That's a very old name. Very well. Groceries can wait. Let's go look through our records. He guides you to the records in the basement. Stacks of wooden boxes and yellowed papers sit on row after row of tall shelves. He guides you to the furthest corner of the room and pulls the lid off a weathered crate. A smell emerges. "These are very delicate. Please treat them gently." "Do you know where they lived?" You tell him they lived next door to the unnameable. He finds the name Cahill in the box. Jedediah Cahill left the church in 1793 and was accused of several monstrous murders. For his crimes, he was burned at the stake. Afterwards, his wife Rebecca changed her last name to Sheffield and moved to Boston. The pastor reacts when he sees that name. "Rebecca Sheffield? My word, it must be the same person." A patron from Boston recently made a donation to the Pickering House in the name of her ancestor who lived in Arkham. The ancestor's name was Rebecca Sheffield. "Do you know the name of the patron?" "Rachel Cawthon. She's in town visiting the Pickering House." "Oh." You thank the pastor for his help and make your way back out into the cold. Okay. Our last stop on day 4, the Pickering House. Several historic pieces of furniture and art have attracted a crowd of visitors to the Pickering House. A new donor from Boston recently made a contribution to the exhibition. This donor, an older woman named Rachel Cawthon, is happy to speak with you about her ancestors who hailed from Arkham. Rebecca Cahill and her husband used to live on Boundary Street, across from the old wooded graveyard. Yes. They were right next door to the notorious Unnameable house mentioned in Randolph Carter's novel. The Cahill's house is gone now, but I believe some apartments were built on the foundations. After her husband died, Rebecca moved to Boston with her daughter. Okay, continuing our out of ideas thing, since that didn't work out so good. At the start of day 5, our last day to crack this case, I'm going to try the next person on the list, which is the William Coffin, the shady fellow that may know something about the underside of things. I figured you would be reaching out to me. William Coffin tilts his head back as he drains the last of his coffee. I know some people over in the Arkham tenements who tell me there's a girl walking around who's supposed to be dead. The girl's name is Ellie Hathaway. And in my experience, people don't pretend to be dead without a reason. A lot of people disappear or do strange things in Arkham, wouldn't you say? Profitable for me, since I'm in the information business. Word is, pages of a forbidden book or something have been replicated. Things are about to get interesting. Okay, so Ellie Hathaway's wandering around the tenements, I guess? Let's head to the tenements. And sadly, the entry for it is 2 different ones. If you enter during the day, which we are, it merely says, Arkham's tenement buildings aren't pleasant, but today the shabby apartments remind you of a ghost town more than anything. A few residents mill about, looking sad and afraid. A faint, unpleasant odor hangs in the air. That's it. So we only have one spot left, one thing left to try. And I don't know what to do. So I think we're just gonna call it there and see how it goes with the quiz. All right, questions. What kind of creature killed the night watchman? Vampire. That much we feel pretty confident about. And the answer is vampire, 2 points. What was this creature's name? That should be Noah. Noah Cahill. And sure enough, 2 points. Oh, 3 points. Noah Cahill. Well, all right. So who is Jedediah Cahill's living descendant currently in Arkham? That is that lady who made the donation. Cawthon. Yep. Answer number 3, 3 points. Rachel Cawthon. Question number 4. Where can the creature be found during the day? I do not know. Why is the creature there? It says they were built on the site where its home used to be at the Nathaniel Wingate Peasley Apartments. Okay. Where did the creature take the skin of its victims? Back to the Unnameable, I assume. To the basement of the Unnameable. Cool. What is the creature doing with the skin? I don't know, blankets? Using it for pages in a book. Duh, should have thought of that. That's because that's transcribing everything. Okay. Whose blood revived the creature? Whose blood revived the creature? That's a weird one. I assume it's the girl who's walking around Ellie. Yep. Where did Jedediah Cahill bury his son? Oh, that'd be the unnamed isle, for what it's worth, or unvisited isle. So 3 points for that one. That's cool. Why did he bury him there? Because he thought he wouldn't get up? Vampires can't cross running water. What caused Jedediah Cahill's son to fall into a catatonic state? Well, that was that house, the Unnameable. So that one I got right. Okay, so we didn't actually do too badly. There's a whole lot of kind of unanswered questions on this one. So we got 2, 3, 3. So it's 6, 8, 11, 13, 16, 19. Okay. We missed several things, but we did get several other things. Let's see, 13 points or above, you win. On the following pages, you may view the location Armitage visited. Fewer than 13 points, you did not do so good. If you scored 19 or more, you are indeed a master detective. Well, that's great, thanks. Armitage solved the case by visiting 10 locations. Here is the solution. In Armitage's study, a fire crackles invitingly in the fireplace, and you allow yourself to enjoy simple pleasures despite the object sitting on a stand between you and your mentor, the Necronomicon, the strange book that was so central to this case. You can feel its power, its hunger for blood and destruction. Flesh and blood, your mentor says into the quiet. Back in 1793, there was nothing Jedediah Cahill wouldn't do to try to save his son. How noble, how ruinous. It is fortunate that Mr. Lyman was willing to share what the Order knew about the Cahills and their history. The knights live in the square between the tower and the church, or rather, the rook and the bishop. After Noah Cahill's encounter with the Unnameable left the child unresponsive, Jedediah joined the Order and stole their copy of the Necronomicon. It is said that the text must be written on human flesh. Using this book, he marshaled dark forces to restore the boy. The results were monstrous. The boy rose again as a vampire, hungry for blood, as well as an overwhelming compulsion to possess the book that had birthed them. However, the Order had reclaimed their property and moved it, so the creature began to make his own book, using the skin of victims. Mob justice blamed Jedediah and burned him at the stake, but not before the elder Cahill had managed to put an end to his son's reign of terror. But Noah's sleep was not eternal. The monster returned after 150 years to resume his terrible work. By day, it slept in the basement of the apartments, where its home had once been. By night, it took victim skins to the unnameable and tried to fashion them into the pages of its own book. The sun has risen, you interject. So it has. Decapitating this beast will be a grim bit of business, but it is pleasant to think about Rachel Cawthon, a descendant of the Cahills. I'm given to understand that she has 7 grandchildren in Boston. The two of you stand in silence. Family can be good, you say. Indeed. Well, that's kind of weird. So I guess they leave the beheading of the vampire for later. Well, there you have it. There is episode 2. I thought we were floundering and doing absolutely horribly, but it turns out we got as much of the mystery as there is to get. Except for the part where I forgot that they were using the skin to write pages in the book. Still, we did well enough to beat the 13-point threshold. And so we can claim victory for our second mystery. Next time when we get to it, number 3 will be The King Cometh, Investigation 3, August 19th, 1929. So as you can see, there's definitely a progression going on. So I found it interesting. I hope you do too. I'm Ray. This is Tiny Table Games. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.